You think this is your house now? That's what my son-in-law screamed at me, right before he slammed my own bedroom door right in my face. I swear, for a second, I thought I'd fallen into someone else's nightmare. Because what kind of man talks like that to the woman who raised his wife? My name's Marianne Douglas. I'm 64, and I've lived in Cedar Springs, a quiet town outside Portland, Oregon, my whole life. I've never been rich, never been poor, just average. A small pension, a mortgage I finally finished paying off last year, and a 2-bedroom house I kept spotless. Because that's what I do when life gets too loud. I clean until it makes sense again. I had a daughter, Emily, my only child. She was the kind of girl who could charm anyone with one smile. Smart, funny, too good for this small town. So when she met Jason, a software consultant from Seattle, I was happy for her. At least I thought I was. The whole thing started last Tuesday. I'd just come back from the grocery store. Nothing fancy, just milk, eggs, bread, and a few chicken thighs on sale. I pushed open my front door, humming like I always do when I'm tired but proud of getting everything done. And then I saw it. 2 massive suitcases sitting in the hallway, a box of shoes by the couch, and my daughter standing there, holding her phone, wearing that guilty look you only get when you know you've done something wrong. "Mom," she said too cheerfully, "you're home early." I blinked. Early? I checked the clock on the wall. "It's 5:30, Emily. What's going on here?" Before she could answer, Jason appeared from the guest room. He was carrying my floral quilt. My quilt. The one I made when Emily went off to college. And he just walked right past me, like I was invisible. "Where do you want me to put your mom's stuff?" he asked over his shoulder. My stuff, my stuff. That's when it clicked. They weren't visiting. They were moving in. "Jason, what are you doing?" I asked, my voice shaking more from disbelief than anger. He didn't even look up. "Emily told you, right? The lease on our place fell through. The landlord sold the property out of nowhere. We just need to crash here for a bit. Couple of weeks, tops." Emily nodded fast, like a guilty kid caught with her hand in the cookie jar. "Yeah, Mom, it's just temporary, until we find something else." I put the grocery bags down on the table, maybe a little too hard. The cans clattered against the wood. "Temporary," I repeated. "And when exactly were you planning to tell me you were moving in?" Jason finally looked at me, his arms crossed, his tone calm but sharp. "Marianne, it's not like you're using the extra rooms. You live alone. We're family. This shouldn't be a big deal." There it was. That tone. The kind people use when they've already decided they're right. I wish I could say I yelled back right then, that I told him to pack his designer bags and get out of my house, but I didn't. I just stood there staring at those suitcases, at my daughter's nervous smile, at the way Jason's hand rested on her shoulder, protective, possessive, as if I were the intruder. "Mom," Emily said softly, "you always say it gets too quiet here. We'll keep you company for a while. It'll be nice." Nice. She used the same word she used when she was 12 and brought home a stray cat that scratched my sofa to shreds. It'll be nice. I forced a smile because that's what mothers do when they're cornered by their own love. But inside, I felt something shift. A slow, painful awareness that the peace I'd built in this house was already slipping away. That night, when I went to bed, I heard them laughing in the kitchen. My kitchen. The clinking of glasses, the hum of their conversation, a domestic sound that should have been comforting, but instead made my stomach twist. And when Jason's voice carried down the hallway, "Babe, tell your mom not to worry about the bills. We'll toss her $100 for the month, and that should cover it, right?" I knew this wasn't just about temporary shelter. It was about control. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, realizing something awful. I had raised a daughter who thought my home was just a backup plan, and I had allowed it all these years by never saying no. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of a blender. It was 6:15 a.m. I always wake up early, but that noise felt like a drill to my skull. I walked out in my robe, hair still messy, and there was Jason, shirtless, headphones on, making some kind of green smoothie like he owned the place. He saw me and grinned. "Mornin', Marianne. Hope you don't mind. I used some of your almond milk. Oh, and your coffee beans were running low, so I ordered a new brand on Amazon. It's better, trust me. Better." He said it like a man fixing something broken, except the something was my life. Emily came in right after him, dressed for work, heels clicking against the tile. She kissed me on the cheek. "Morning, Mom. You okay?" I wanted to say, "No, I'm not okay. My kitchen smells like kale and arrogance." But I just nodded. "Fine, sweetheart, just fine." Jason winked at her. "Your mom's still adjusting, huh?" Adjusting. That word landed harder than it should have. By noon, my living room looked like a college dorm. Jason's monitors on my coffee table, cables snaking across the floor, and an empty pizza box left on the couch. My couch. Emily's makeup spread across the bathroom counter, my hand towels soaked in something pink and sparkly. I stood in the doorway gripping a mug that used to bring me peace, and all I could think was, they didn't even ask. That night, when Emily came home, I tried to talk. "Sweetheart, can we discuss the house rules?" Jason was right there beside her, arm draped around her waist. "Rules? Marianne, come on, we're not kids." "I know," I said quietly, "but this is still my home." He smirked, not unkindly, just with that quiet confidence that makes your blood simmer. "Of course it is. We're just sharing it for a bit. You won't even notice we're here." But I did notice. I noticed everything. The next few days blurred together. Every sound, every small disrespect, piled up like bricks on my chest. Jason borrowed my car without asking, said he'd fill the tank later. He didn't. Emily invited friends over for dinner and used my best plates, the ones I'd been saving for Thanksgiving. I sat there, invisible, while she laughed with them, my name barely mentioned. When I finally said something, quietly, gently, Emily sighed like she was dealing with a child. "Mom, don't be dramatic. It's just a few dishes." And Jason added, "You should be happy, Marianne. Most people your age are begging their kids to visit." That one hit hard, because he was right, in a cruel, half-true way. That night, after they went to bed, I sat in the dark living room, staring at the boxes still by the door. I should have told them to leave. I wanted to. But instead, I cleaned up their mess, folded the blanket they left on the floor, and whispered to myself, "It's only for a couple of weeks." But deep down, I knew better. Jason wasn't planning to leave, and Emily wasn't planning to make him, because sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who quietly take everything that makes you feel like yourself. And that was the night I realized they hadn't just moved into my house, they'd moved into my peace. The tension kept growing, small, quiet things that didn't seem like much on their own, but together, they started to eat at me. One evening, I came home from the market carrying a small roast chicken, a bottle of white wine, and a pie from Mrs. Callahan's bakery down the street. I'd been saving that pie for a quiet Sunday dinner, just me and my thoughts. When I walked in, the smell of smoke hit me first, then laughter. Jason was by the grill in the backyard, wearing my late husband's old apron, the one that still had his initials embroidered on it. Emily was on the porch, phone in hand, filming him like they were shooting some lifestyle vlog. I froze. "What are you doing with that?" Jason looked over his shoulder, smiling. Spatula in hand. "Hey, Marianne, you never use this thing. Figured I'd put it to work. Hope you don't mind." Hope you don't mind. The phrase people use right after they've already crossed the line. I tried to keep my voice steady. That apron belonged to Tom. Jason's smile faltered for just a second, but then he shrugged. He's gone, right? Thought he'd want it used. Emily shot him a look, that silent warning only wives can give. But it was too late. I turned around and went back inside before the tears could come. I could hear them laughing again through the kitchen window, the clink of beer bottles, the sound of my husband's apron brushing against the table. I went to my room and shut the door. For a moment, I pressed my forehead against it, breathing slow, steady, like maybe if I stayed quiet enough, I could disappear. But the next morning, the line moved again. I went to check my bank app, not because I suspected anything, but just habit. And there it was, a transfer. $420 withdrawn for utilities. I hadn't authorized it. When I asked, Emily looked uncomfortable. "Mom, Jason said we should pitch in, but your account's already linked to the Wi-Fi bill. It was just easier this way. We'll pay you back." She said it softly, like she thought I'd understand, but all I heard was, "He touched my money." I stared at her. "Easier for who, Emily?" "Mom, please, don't make this into a thing. Jason's just trying to help." Help? That word again. Every time they said it, something in me shrank. That evening, Jason came home with takeout and 2 bottles of wine. "Marianne, sit down. You've been stressed. Let's eat together." I almost laughed. Stressed? I wasn't stressed. I was invisible. As we ate, he said casually, "You know, we've been thinking, maybe it makes sense if we just stay here for a few months, save up, get on our feet properly." Emily nodded quickly. "Yeah, Mom. It's only until spring. Then we'll be out of your hair." Out of my hair. The phrase stuck like a splinter. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every moment, every small invasion. My car, my kitchen, my husband's apron, my bank account. It wasn't about the things. It was about space, my life. And then I remembered something my mother used to say. People don't take from you all at once. They take piece by piece until you forget what was yours. I lay there staring at the ceiling, and for the first time in years, I felt something sharp rise up inside me. Not anger, exactly, but resolve. They thought I was weak. They thought love meant silence. They were wrong. Because the next morning, I decided they were going to learn whose house this really was. The morning I finally said something didn't start like a confrontation. It started like any other day. Quiet, heavy, the smell of burnt toast drifting from the kitchen. I walked in to find Jason sitting at my table, feet up, scrolling on his phone. My table. Emily was making coffee, humming to herself, still in her robe. "Morning," Jason said without looking up. "We're out of creamer. You might want to grab some next time you shop." That was it. The sentence that broke me. I'd spent my whole life swallowing words. The "it's fine," the "don't worry about it," the "I'll handle it," until my throat was full of things I never said. But that morning, something in me finally snapped. I set down my mug, slowly, deliberately. "Jason, we need to talk." He looked up, surprised, like he hadn't expected me to have a voice. "Sure, what's up?" "This isn't working." Emily turned, frowning. "Mom?" "No." I raised my hand, and for once, my voice didn't shake. "I've tried to be understanding, but you've treated this house like it's yours. You use my car, my kitchen, my money." "Your money?" Jason cut in, his voice rising. "We paid for groceries last week." I laughed, the kind of laugh that isn't really laughter. "Groceries? Jason, you withdrew from my account. You didn't pay. You took." He stood up then, his chair scraping loud against the floor. "Whoa, okay, let's not get dramatic here." Emily stepped between us. "Mom, please, we just need time. You don't have to make this ugly." "Ugly?" I whispered. "Sweetheart, I didn't make this ugly. You did, the moment you let him treat me like a guest in my own home." Her face fell, her lips trembling. "That's not fair." "No, it's not," I said softly. "None of this is fair. I gave you everything, every ounce of peace I had left, and you stood there while he—" Jason slammed his hand on the table. "Enough. We're not kids. You can't just kick us out." I looked him dead in the eye. "Yes, I can." The silence that followed was almost holy. Emily blinked like she couldn't process the words. Jason just stared, jaw tight. I walked to the cabinet, pulled out a small stack of envelopes, bills, receipts, the mortgage document I'd paid off last year. I laid them on the table one by one. "This house," I said quietly, "was built on 30 years of my life. I scrubbed floors, I took double shifts, I buried your father, and I still paid every penny of this roof. You don't get to call it yours, not for a week, not for a night." Jason opened his mouth, but I raised a hand again. "You will not speak to me in this house until you pack your things." He scoffed. "You're serious?" "More serious than I've ever been." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "Mom, we don't have anywhere else to go." I looked at her. My little girl who used to cry when I left her at kindergarten, who once promised she'd take care of me someday. And I realized this was the moment I had to let her grow up. "You'll figure it out," I said. I did. She stood frozen, caught between guilt and disbelief. Jason muttered something under his breath. I didn't catch it, didn't care to. I turned and walked down the hall, heart pounding, hands shaking, but lighter somehow. I closed my bedroom door and leaned against it, listening to the sound of whispered arguments, the shuffle of boxes, the door finally closing behind them hours later. When the silence settled, it wasn't lonely. It was clean, pure. That night, I made myself tea, sat by the window, and looked out at the streetlights painting soft halos on the pavement. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel forgotten. I felt free. Sometimes love doesn't mean keeping the door open. Sometimes real love, the kind that saves you, starts with closing it. It's been 3 weeks since they left. The first night, the house felt too quiet, like the silence was testing me, asking if I'd really meant it. But then, the quiet started to feel peaceful. I started noticing small things again, the sound of the kettle whistling, the soft creak of the porch swing when the wind blew, the way sunlight touched the kitchen floor at exactly 9:12 every morning. For the first time in years, the house felt like mine again. Still, sometimes I caught myself setting 3 plates instead of 1. Old habits die slow. A few days after they left, Emily called. I saw her name flash on the screen, and for a full minute I couldn't bring myself to answer. When I finally picked up, her voice was small. "Hi, Mom." "Hi, sweetheart." Long pause. You could fit a lifetime between our silences. "Jason's been tense," she said. "We're staying at his friend's place for now. It's not great, but it's fine." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "You'll be okay." "I didn't realize how much I hurt you," she said quietly. "I thought we were just helping each other. I didn't see it." "I know," I said, "but now you do." She hesitated. "Do you hate me?" My throat tightened. "No, I don't hate you, but I think I finally love myself enough not to let anyone make me small again." Neither of us spoke for a while, just breathing, together, across the static. "Mom," she whispered, "I'm sorry." I closed my eyes. "I know, baby." That was all we said before hanging up, and somehow that was enough. After that, I started doing things I hadn't done in years. I joined a local book club, started gardening again, tomatoes, basil, and a stubborn patch of lavender that refuses to die no matter what. I even painted the guest room, the one they'd stayed in, a soft blue, the color of peace. The neighbors must have noticed something, because one morning Mrs. Callahan stopped me at the mailbox and said, "You look different, Marianne, happier." And I realized she was right. Because happiness doesn't always come from gaining something. Sometimes it comes from ending something. That night, I made dinner for myself. Real dinner, not leftovers. I poured a glass of wine, lit a candle, and turned on the old record player Tom used to love. The house hummed softly with the sound of Frank Sinatra's voice, and for the first time, I danced. Slow, barefoot, in my living room, under the same ceiling that once echoed with shouting. I looked up and whispered, "I did it, Tom. I finally said no." The next morning, Emily dropped by. No warning, just a quiet knock on the door. When I opened it, she was standing there, hair tied back. No makeup, holding a box. "Can I come in?" she asked. I nodded. "Of course." She walked inside slowly, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to. "This is for you," she said, handing me the box. Inside was my old quilt, the one Jason had taken from my room, folded, clean, smelling faintly of lavender detergent. "I washed it," she said softly, "and I told him we're finding our own place. Not yours. Ours." Something in me broke. In a good way this time. I reached out and hugged her. Really hugged her. For the first time, she didn't feel like my little girl. She felt like a woman finally learning what love means. The kind that doesn't take. When she left, I stood at the door for a long time, holding that quilt, the same fabric I'd sewn when she was 18 and leaving home. And I realized maybe this, too, was her leaving home again. Just properly, this time. I spread the quilt across my bed and whispered, "Home isn't where your children stay. It's where you remember who you are." Then I turned off the light, let the quiet settle around me, and smiled. Because for once, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt like peace. Finally earned. A week later, I woke up before dawn. The house was still, wrapped in that soft blue half-light that only happens just before morning. I made coffee, sat by the window, and watched the world outside my little corner of Cedar Springs start to wake up. A delivery truck rumbling down the street, the neighbor's dog barking at shadows, the sound of life carrying on. It felt strange, realizing that I didn't have to wait for anyone to wake up anymore. No doors slamming, no blender roaring, no voices spilling through the hallway. Just me. For years, I thought being alone meant I'd failed somehow. As a mother, as a wife, as a person. I thought love was measured by how much space you were willing to give up for other people. But now, sitting there with my coffee and the morning light on my face, I understood something different. Love isn't giving everything away. Love is leaving enough for yourself to stay whole. Around 8, my phone buzzed. A text from Emily. "Morning, Mom. Got the new apartment keys today. It's small, but it's ours. Come visit soon?" I smiled, typed back slowly. "I will. Bring your own coffee, though. Mine's too strong for you." She sent a heart emoji. It made me laugh. A small, quiet kind of laugh that didn't hurt anymore. After that, I went to the porch and sat with my notebook. I'd started writing again. Nothing serious, just small reflections. The kind of thoughts I used to push away because there was always someone else to take care of. That morning I wrote, "Freedom isn't loud. It's quiet. It's the sound of no one telling you what to do in your own home." And then, without meaning to, I cried. Not out of sadness, but relief. The kind of relief that comes when you finally realize the storm has passed and you survived it. Later that week, Mrs. Callahan came by with fresh bread. She sat with me on the porch, her voice soft and teasing. "So, when's Emily visiting again?" "Soon," I said, "but not to stay, just to visit." She smiled. "That's good. Boundaries, my dear. Took me 40 years to learn that word." I laughed, breaking the bread in half. Took me 64. That night, I lit another candle, played the same Sinatra record, and sat at the kitchen table. The same one where Jason once told me I couldn't kick them out. The same one where I'd finally said, "Yes, I can." I ran my fingers along the grain of the wood, the faint scratches and stains from all the years of living, and I realized something. Every mark on that table was a story. Some painful, some beautiful, but all mine. The house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt alive, not because someone else filled it, but because I did. Before going to bed, I stepped outside one last time. The air was cool, the sky clear. I looked up at the stars and whispered, "Thank you." Not to anyone in particular, just to life itself, for giving me a second chance at peace. Then I went inside, turned off the lights, And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't dream about what I'd lost. I dreamed about what I'd found, myself. If you're still here, thank you, truly. If this story touched you, even just a little, hit subscribe and stay with me for more. Stories about love, family, and the moments we find the courage to stand up for ourselves. Thank you for listening till the end. I'll see you in the next story.